Today we are talking about prong collars. So right here we have a small Hermspringer prong collar. So it is a 2.25 millimeter prong collar. I like the Hermspringer brand. I think that they are the best quality on the market. I think they contour to the dog's necks the best. I like them the best. Those are the only ones that I use. So you can see here that I've got a leash attached. There's also an extra carabiner attached. So these are extra safety features. So this carabiner is attached to the dead ring, and then you can see we've got an extra carabiner attached to our leash. This is in case of leash failure. This is in case of prong collar failure. So that will be something you'll see in a demonstration later in the video. I'm going to take those off for now so that we can just talk about the prong collar itself. So here we have just the prong collar. So this is what it would look like after you get it out of the bag or after you purchase it from the store. So you'll notice the Springer brand has Springer written on the middle bracket and on each side bracket, so that way you know that it's the correct one. So you can see that we got all of our prongs in here. So on the middle bracket, you can see that this one goes in the middle and then the prongs go out facing opposite directions around that. So that's to ensure even pressure around the whole neck. Sometimes for sizing, like I've got my medium set up for one of my dogs without this in there because the sizing on it can be a little bit trickier. That's a story for a different day. So we want to have as much even distribution for prongs as possible. So this one has 5 on one side and 6 on the other. So that's okay. It's an odd number of prongs, so you're going to have one side will have one more than the other. What you don't want to have is one side with 2 prongs and one side with 9. So that's going to make it naturally slide around a little bit. It's not going to hurt anything. It's not going to hurt the dog, but it's just not going to be the most ideal situation because one side's going to be heavier. It may start to slide around and want to continually slide into the wrong spot on the dog's neck. It's not going to hurt anything. We want it to be as even distribution as possible around the neck. So what each prong is going to do is give our dog even communication around their neck, so that way that we can have as delicate a communication as possible. So that way I'm able to give the dog a cue, and it will look something like this. So similar to if you have ever ridden a horse, when you use a rein, you're doing something like this with a bit in their mouth. So that actually enables you to be much subtler in your communication. So I can do something like this or just pressure on like this versus with a flat collar. We've all been there where our dog is dragging us down the street. And it looks something more like this where you're pulling or you're going to drag them off somewhere, something like that. It's actually a lot more force involved. So our prong collar allows us to have a much more delicate communication with our dogs. So this is actually just going to put even pressure around the neck. So the prongs do go inward. So this is where our dog's neck will be. They're going to go in and touch the dog's neck. So this piece right here, our chain at the top, you want to have a nice untangled triangle. If that gets tangled, you want to take it apart and put it back together so that that's not twisted. So this is called the dead ring, and this is called the live ring. So the one at the top that swivels, that's the live ring. That's where our leash gets attached. The dead ring is going to be where that extra carabiner gets attached, and then that will get attached to the flat collar. So just in case our prong collar were to malfunction or come apart, whether it's due to a manufacturing defect or user error, which is probably more common, our dog is still going to be attached. We're not going to have a loose dog. So how do we take this on and off? Because obviously this is going to be too small to put over a dog's head, and we wouldn't want it to be large enough to come over the dog's head anyway. How we're going to do that is just by taking any 2 prongs apart. So what I do is put my thumb down on one side like this. I'll ever so slightly push it up with the pad of my index finger here just to get those starting to come up, and then I pinch right at the top and pull it out. So then when you go to put it together, and I'll demonstrate how we put it on a dog's neck, but you'll come underneath their neck and you're going to, so you see here, if I just go to line them up, they don't just line straight up, because otherwise they would just pop on and off very easily, right? So then we'd have loose dogs. So what you do is line one side up, and you're just going to barely fit it here, and then pinch this side to fit, and it goes all the way through like that. What you don't want to do is put one side halfway through or all the way through, and then try and pinch this side to match, because then you'll end up with something like this, and it may feel secure if you're not paying a whole lot of attention. You don't want to just pull it straight through. Take it out and start again, because that's how you can bend or damage the prongs, and then they're more likely to pop open on their own. And something else you want to look out for, you don't want to take it apart at the bracket here, just because it's going to take a little bit more grip and pinch power to get it in there, so it's a little bit more difficult, especially for anyone out there who maybe has arthritis or doesn't have the greatest pinch ability. Definitely don't take it apart here. And these end brackets as well, so you can see these ones are different. They're made to stay in this base right here, so these ones are just a little bit stiffer. On a small prong collar, it's not going to be as big of a difference, but it can be that much of a difference if you have a dog that's wiggly or just really excited to go for their walk. This little extra piece can make a difference in that just tiny degree of difficulty for this being a little bit stiffer. So just things to look out for. You also want to make sure if you pick up the collar, this can get twisted around. So you don't want to do something like twist it and then put it through like this the wrong way, or just look at it and say, well, that's broken. So you just want to flip it around where it's supposed to be like this, have it like that. We can see our chain is not twisted. It's able to move through there freely. What can happen sometimes, you've got it undone, your dog knocks it out of your hand, you pick it back up. You put it on, you realize maybe it's a little bit snug or the chain feels kind of funny. It's usually because that's twisted. So here you can see our chain is actually twisted. We do not want that to happen. So if that happens, you just need to take it off and start over. So take it off, let it unfurl and get back to its normal place. And then you would just put it back on, just like that. Alright, so now we're going to talk about actually putting the prong collar on and sizing. So this is Annie. She's used to wearing a prong collar. She wears a medium. So I actually don't know what size she wears in the small, so I'm actually going to size this to her and not know what size. I know this is too small. You'll notice first I've got a slip lead on her. So it doesn't have to be a slip lead, just any, like their flat collar and a leash works fine too. So that way you can put it on the ground and step on it, just in case she goes to wander off or gets a little bit fussy about me being around her head, especially if it's a dog that you don't know or you don't know what their reaction will be. It's just an extra safety precaution. When you go to put it on, you're going to go right underneath their neck here. So it's going to go right at the base of their ear. So right at the base of the neck here, you want it to sit here. Depending on the sizing of it and depending on the width of the dog's neck, it will slide just a little bit as they walk. So this one is too small. So I've got a good 1-inch gap here. So what I need to do is add some links in. So what I'm going to do is add them evenly. So I'm going to add 2 and see where that gets me. It may still be off, and we'll see. So I'm standing on her leash just in case. I'm coming right underneath her neck like this, putting it on. So there you can see as I go in to put it on, I'm coming in with the chain underneath her neck, right? So I can see what I'm doing from the top as I go to put this on. So I can actually do it by feel at this point, so I don't have to look at it. Most people want to look at it. So then what you're going to do is pull it out away from their neck a little bit. So especially dogs that have a lot of hair, pull it out and then you're just going to rotate it around so that way it's not getting caught in any hair or like skin folds or anything like that. So it's not, you know, getting caught and doing this as you turn it. So turning it around just like that, you want it sitting right at the top here. So you can see here, she actually, because she has a nice little notch right at the top of her neck here. So this is definitely going to slide as she walks. You can see it slides down. So it's not the end of the world if it slides a little bit. Some dogs, just the way that they fit or the way that their neck is, it's going to slide a little bit. For her, just from knowing her, she's a pushy, bratty dog. So with pushy, bratty dogs, if it's a choice between too tight and too loose, I'll usually go a little bit snugger, try it out, see how it goes. That's usually better. Dogs that are a little bit more fearful, anxious, if you're deciding between one or the other, the looser option is usually going to be the best choice. So here, just knowing her, if I were actually going to take her for a walk with this or take her outside with it, I would probably pull one out. So here you can see I can pull it away from her neck quite a bit. I actually want it a bit snugger than that, so I'm actually going to go ahead and just take one out. So come back in underneath, put it together, pull it away from her neck so I can turn it. just like that. Okay, so this is how I normally actually keep the prong collar set up. So I usually go ahead and just leave the leash attached to it, and I usually go ahead and leave the carabiner attached to the dead ring. So I'd put it on, it would all be attached. So we're here, our chain isn't twisted, we've got our triangle. This is flat on her neck, so that's where our dead ring is. So then the carabiner just comes around and it's gonna clip to her flat collar right here. So just like that. So our leash has its double snap, so it's got its back up, and then our prong collar is backed up to our flat collar. So that way, if we're walking and something were to happen, if her prong collar came off, so if her prong collar came off, what happens is our leash is still attached to the prong collar. The prong collar is attached via the carabiner to her flat collar, so I still have her under control. At least minimally. We all know a flat collar is not ideal, but it's better than having a loose dog, that is for sure. So this would be the example of it being way too loose. You can see when I pull up on the chain here, these ends are almost meeting and it's still barely even making contact with her neck. As soon as I release it, it's sliding almost all the way down to the base of her neck. And then while it's there, it's still coming out and doing this. So what can happen is this could slide over her neck, over the top potentially, and come off, and it can also roll and go completely inside out, and then you really just have a necklace on, and I don't know why we would have a necklace on our dog, right? So that's not the goal. We want it sitting right up here where we had it before, and hopefully staying here, and if it's sliding, it's just sliding really in this portion of the neck.